Greetings, car fanatics. Today I'm going to show you how to properly lift a Porsche 911 onto jack stands. This also applies to the Porsche Boxster and Cayman. So to lift your vehicle up, you'll need 4 jack stands. I highly recommend the ESCO jacks, but I'll also be using these aluminum race jacks since they're also pretty common. You also need a floor jack. I definitely recommend having 2, but I'll show you how to raise your car using either 1 or 2 jacks. Before we get started in this video, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not. This is really important so I can continue to make new content for the channel. The first thing you want to do is park your car on a flat surface and make sure the parking brake is on. Get your jack stand set to the right height because you don't want to be fiddling with these while your car is in the air. We're going to start by lifting one side of the vehicle up first, but before we do that, let's chalk off the wheels on the opposite side. Now let's put the front right corner of the car on a jack stand. To prevent damage to the jack points, I'm going to be using a piece of wood to jack up the car. You can also use a hockey puck or a jack pad specifically designed for Porsches. Get the jack under the rear jack point, and because the chassis is so stiff, when you jack up the rear of the car, it'll also raise the front of the car. Place the jack stand underneath the front jack point, then slowly lower the car down. Because we had to use the rear jack point to raise the car, we won't be able to get a jack stand underneath this jack point. If you only have one jack, go ahead and lower the car all the way and move your jack to the back of the vehicle. Alright, so let me show you how to raise the back of your car up. You don't want to jack up your car at the center crossmember. As you can see here, the center crossmember is supported by the ends, and if you jack it up from the middle, there is a chance you can bend the center crossmember. Instead, you want to use this strong suspension member here because the piece goes up and connects directly into the frame, so it can handle a lot more force than the center crossmember. To prevent damaging your vehicle and help distribute the load evenly, place a piece of wood or a hockey puck right on the flat part and jack the vehicle up. When the rear of the vehicle is high enough, slide your jack stand underneath the rear jack point and slowly lower the vehicle down. Alright, car fanatics, so we have one side of the vehicle lifted up. And as you can see, let me show you what the other side of the car looks like. Got a nice little lean going on over here. And now it's time to lift up the other side of the vehicle. We're going to repeat the same process. Place the jack under the rear jack point and lift the side of the vehicle up. Slide a jack stand under the front jack point and slowly lower the car onto it. Now I'm going to show you why it's helpful to have a second floor jack. Let's assume we just have one floor jack and lower the car slowly. You'll notice that when I lower this corner, the front right corner actually comes off the jack stand. So unless you want to lean back like Fat Joe, I suggest you use 2 jacks instead of 1. Also, it's very important that you use high quality jack stands like these ESCOs that have a built-in rubber pad on top so you prevent the vehicle from sliding off the jack stands. So let's go ahead and get the vehicle level and I'll show you how to use that second jack. So instead of lowering your jack down, go ahead and take your second jack and move it to the rear suspension point. To use the second jack to barely lift up the rear from the suspension point. As you do this, you'll notice that the right rear corner comes off the jack stand a little, but the car overall is way more level and balanced than in the first scenario. With the left rear corner raised, remove the jack, place the jack stand under the jack point, and slowly lower your car down. Alright, so we got the 911 on 4 jack stands, but to be honest, this process can be a bit confusing. So let me break down the physics and help you understand how the vehicle's weight shifts around during this entire process. I'm going to save you guys from doing the math. Using my engineering background, I ran some calculations with the help of a free body diagram and some simplified assumptions. We start with the car level, where its weight distribution is 38% in the front and 62% in the rear. I'm assuming that the weight is equally split from left to right. When we first lift up one side of the vehicle using the rear jack point, this shifts 50% of the weight onto that jack point because the front wheel is no longer supporting any weight. Once we get the front corner on the jack stand, the weight distribution momentarily shifts back to normal. However, as you lower the rear corner all the way down, you'll notice that the front left wheel comes off the ground. As a result, the left rear wheel ends up bearing the most weight of about 50% of the vehicle's entire weight. When we raise the right rear of the vehicle using the suspension member, we're lifting up about 12% of the vehicle's weight initially. However, as we start to raise up that right rear corner, more weight is going to shift onto the front left wheel and get that wheel back on the ground, and then the overall weight distribution of the car is going to shift and change as well. Once we're done with getting the right side of the car on jack stands, the car is nicely supported by the wheels and the 2 jack stands, and the vehicle's weight distribution is roughly back to where it was. As we raise the left rear of the vehicle up, the jack point bears about 50% of the vehicle's weight. Once we get the front left corner onto the jack stand, the vehicle's weight distribution goes back to normal because the car is level. As we lower the left rear corner of the vehicle, weight shifts onto the front left and rear right corners, and the front right corner of the vehicle lifts off the jack stand. We then raise the car back to level, where it sits on all 3 jack stands. Next, we raise the rear of the vehicle using the suspension point. This is where things are different. When we raised the right rear corner, the vehicle's suspension allowed the weight to shift onto the wheels on the opposite side. But because the car is no longer on the ground and the entire rear end lifts up, this puts about 55% of the vehicle's weight onto the rear suspension member. This is why you want to be very careful to use the right spot and to do so for only briefly. And finally, with the car sitting on all 4 jack stands, the weight distribution of the car goes back to normal because again, the car is level. So that's how you get a 911 onto 4 jack stands. You definitely want to make sure you're lifting the car in the right sequence and that you're using high quality jack stands. In my case, I really love these ESCO jack stands because of how secure they are. The base is nice and wide, and so is the jack top, and the pad on top is really nice because it provides a large and grippy surface area. I wouldn't recommend using a traditional jack like this one because the top just isn't the right shape for the Porsche 911 jack points. The aluminum race style jack works okay, but I wouldn't recommend using this. As you can see, hockey puck is actually bigger than the top of the jack, and it just doesn't seem super secure to me. So I would definitely recommend going with the ESCO jack stands instead, or you can go with a more premium jack like the Ren stand or the jack points. In addition, when you do get your car up on all 4 jacks, you want to make sure that the car is secure. Give it a nice shove and make sure it's not moving around. And if you're going to be working underneath the car, I definitely recommend throwing a wheel under each side of the vehicle as an added precaution. If for whatever reason the jack stands fail, you'll be very happy that those wheels were there to save your life. When you're done working on your car and you want to lower it down, just follow the exact steps in reverse. You want to start by lifting up the rear end of the car, take out the jack stand on one of the rear jack points, use that rear jack point to lift the side of the vehicle up, remove that front jack stand, and then repeat the following steps on the other side. And then you'll get your car back on the ground. Alright, so I covered how to get the car on 4 jack stands. Let me quickly cover how to get the vehicle just on 2 jack stands. So let's say you want to get just the front on jack stands. Simply jack up each side using the rear jack point, place the jack stand underneath, lower the car onto the jack stand, and repeat this on the other side. And lastly, let me show you how to raise just the back end of the car on jack stands. You want to start by chalking off the front of the wheels. That way your car doesn't roll forward when you lift the back end of the car up. Then you're going to take your jack stand and place it on one side of the suspension member and go ahead and lift that corner of the vehicle up. Place your jack stand underneath. Slowly lower the car. And then repeat this on the other side. And that's how you get just the back end of your car on jack stands. Alright car fanatics, so that's how you get a Porsche 911, a Boxster, or a Cayman on a 4 jack stands using traditional jack stands and a floor jack. If you're interested in purchasing these ESCO jack stands, you can click here or take a look at the description below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. The more people that watch and support the channel, the more videos I'll be able to make in the future. We'll leave any questions or comments below, and again, thanks for watching.